Hello, I'm reading Boy Young, and today I'm gonna be reading Mr.Jack is a Maniac. My Reader School book number 10 by Dan Gutman. Illustrated pictures by Jim Palin. Alright, let's get started. Chapter 1, the H word. My name is AJ and I hate. Let me explain. It was a really nice day, so Dr. Brad, the school counselor, took our class out to the playground to talk. We sat in a circle near the monkey bars. Dr. Brad was telling us how kids need to be nicer to each other. Hate is not a nice word, Dr. Brad told us. We should try to be kind and tolerant of other people, even if we don't like them so much. The world would be a better place if there was less hate. No? So try not to use that word. I hate, I said. I can think of anything I hate more than hate, said Ryan. Who will eat anything, even stuff that isn't food? Hate people. I hate people who hate people, said Michael, who never ties his shoes. Everybody agreed that they hate. Well, everybody except Andrea. Oh, look, there's a footnote on the bottom of the page. Dr. Brad thoughts funny if you read this book out loud. Make him sound like a crazy German-made scientist. This annoying girl with curly brown hair. If we shouldn't hate things, Andrea said, then we shouldn't hate, right? Huh? Yeah, we should like hate, said her crybaby friend Emily, who agrees with everything Andrea says. But if it wouldn't be wrong to like hate, said Neil, who we call the new kid even through his wears clothes. I hate, but I hate hating hate too, said Alexia, this girl who rides a skateboard everywhere. I thought my head was going to explode. I hate when that happens. Nobody hates hate more than I hate, said Ryan. I hate more than you hate, said Michael. You do not, I do too. They went back and forth like that for a while. Everybody was saying, "Stop saying hate!" Dr. Brett shouted. But you just said it, I told him. Dr. Brett closed his eyes and rubbed his forehead with his fingers. Did you ever notice that only grown-ups rub their forehead with their fingers? Kids never do that. I guess when you're grown up, your forehead gets itchy. Grown-ups are constantly rubbing their forehead with their fingers. The point is, Dr. Brett said, we should try to use the H word less and love each other more. Everybody started giggling and poking each other with their elbows because Dr. Brett said the L word. Anytime somebody says love, you should start giggling and poking the person next to you with your elbow. That's the first rule being a kid. You what I mean, Dr. Brad said. If you have a disagreement with someone, you should try to talk it out instead of fighting about it all the time. Dr. Brad got up and we all walked near the woods at the end of the playground. We are not supposed to play back there. Our principal, Mr. Klotz, once told us that he saw a big black bear out there one day. He was probably just kidding, but I just stay away from the back of the playground anyway, because I don't want to get attacked by a big black bear. That's when the most amazing thing in the history of the world happened. There was a loud sound in the trees. We all turned around. And you'll never believe in 1,100,000 years that roaring out of the woods. No, it wasn't a big black bear. Ha! You thought it was a black bear, big black bear, didn't you? Well, nah, boo-boo on you. Because it wasn't. It was a big black motorcycle. A big black loud motorcycle. And it was coming straight to us. Eek! Shouted all the girls. Run for your lives! Shouted the Neil the new kid. The big black motorcycle skidded to a stop right next to Dr. Brad. After the dust cleared, the guy riding the motorcycle took off his helmet. And he had deep blue eyes and long dark hair. He said only one word. Yo. It's yo. Oh, chapter 2. Mr.Jack is cool. Is yo even a word? I know that yo-yo is a word. I saw this guy at the toy store once who did yo-yo tricks. He could fling the thing above his head between his legs and all over the place. Yo-yos are cool. Where was I? Oh yeah. It doesn't matter if yo is a word or not because the motorcycle guy said it, and if you say it, I guess it must be a word. Who's he? Everybody was asking. He's cool, said Neil the new kid. He looks like a movie star, said Alexia. He's handsome, said Andrea. He's dreamy, said Emily. The motorcycle guy turned off his motorcycle. He was wearing leather pants, leather shoes, a leather belt, and a leather jacket. That guy was really like leather. I wonder how many cows had to die to make his clothes. He reached into his pocket and pulled a comb out of comb. Then he started combing his hair in slow motion. Doing something in slow motions are cool. I saw this TV show once where they dropped watermelons out of a 10-story building out. You could see them hit the ground and explode in slow motion. That was cool. Excuse me, sir, said Dr. Blatt. May I ask who you are and what you are doing at school property? The motorcycle guy didn't say anything for a long time. He just stared at Dr. Brett with his deep blue eyes. "My name is Mr. Jack," he finally said. "You can call me Mr. Jack." "But your name is Mr. Jack," said Ryan. "I know," said Mr. Jack. "That's why you should call me Mr. Jack." Don't you want us to call you something instead of Mr. Jack?" asked Michael. "No." "Why?" said Mr. Jack. "When people say you can call me, that usually means we should call them something different from their regular name," I told him. "Not this time," said Mr. Jack. That guy was weird. The recess bell rang and the kids came pouring out of the school. They must have seen the motorcycle because a whole bunch of them came running over and gathered around Mr. Jack. So did some of the teacher. "Well, hello," said our gym teacher, Miss Small. She was giggly and started flushing her hair. "Hi there, stranger," said Mrs. Holly, our Spanish teacher. He was blushing and started fanning her hair herself with hand. "New in town?" asked Mrs. Hannah, our art teacher. She pulled a little mirror out of her pocket and started putting makeup on her face. All the lady teachers were giggling and blushing and flushing with their hair and fanning themselves and looking in little mirrors. Ladies always do that stuff when they're in love. Nobody knows why Mrs. Small looked like she was going to faint. "What's your name, sugar?" asked Miss Laney, our speech teacher. "Hello, ladies. My name is Mr. Jack. You can call me Mr. Jack." "Well," giggled Mrs. Holly, "you can call me Available." Dr. Brett pushed his way to the front so he could talk to Mr. Jack. "I'm sorry, sir, but what you are doing is called trespassing," asked Mr. Brett. "This is school property. You need to leave." "Oh, yeah?" said Mr. Jack. "Who's gonna make me?" "Ooh," we all said. Anytime somebody says, "Who's gonna make me?" you have to say, "Ooh." That's the first rule being a kid. "I suppose I'm gonna make you," said Dr. Red. "Oh, yeah," said Mr. Jack. "You and what army?" Ooh, anytime somebody says you and what army, you have to say, "Ooh." That's the second rule being a kid. "I'm scared," said Emily, who was scared of everything. Dr. Brad was looking at Mr. Jack. Mr. Jack was looking at Dr. Brad. We all were looking at Dr. Brad and Mr. Jack. Well, the girls were pretty too much just looking at Mr. Jack. At that moment, the back door of the school opened, and the bunch of male teachers came out. Mr. Mackey, Mr. Granty, Miss Loring, Miss Tucker, even Mrs. Louie, our school crossing guard, Mrs. Tony, and Mr. Tony, the after-school program director, came out. They all ran over and made a circle around Mr. Jack. "This are me," said Mr. Jack. Ooh. Chapter 3. Weapons of Mass Destruction. "Who is that guy?" asked Mrs. Mackey, our reading specialist. "His name is Mr. Jack," I said, "but you can call him Mr. Jack." "Okay, Mr. Jack," said our science teacher, Mrs. Stalker. "This is school property. You can't stay here. We have you outnumbered. If you won't leave on your own, we are going to make you leave." "Oh, let him stay," said Mrs. Holly. "He's cute." "Yeah," said all the lady teachers. "He's cute." Then they all start giggling. "This is going to be cool," Ryan whispered to me. "Now this is exactly the kind of situation I was telling you children about," said Dr. Brad. "We are having a little disagreement here. When mature adults have disagreements, the best way to settle them is to have an open and honest discussion instead of fight." But Dr. Brad didn't get a chance to finish his sentence. At that moment, Mr. Jack picked him up and held him in the air. "Yeah!" screamed Mr. Jack. Then he threw Dr. Brad across the playground. "Wow," he all said, which is Mom upside down. Dr. Brad landed in the bushes. It was cool. I had no idea you could throw another person so far. Mr. Jack jumped into carrot pose. "I must warn the rest of you fellows," he said. "These hands are dangerous tools. In fact, I had to have them registered with the government as weapons of mass destruction." Mr. Jack's hands looked just like the regular hands to me, but what do I know about carrot? "Weird, afraid," said Mr. Tony. "Come on, boys, let's take him." With that, Mr. Tony charged at Mr. Jack. "Yeah!" screamed Mr. Jack. He spun around fast, grabbed Mr. Tony's arm, gave him a kick in the butt, and sent him tumbling on the ground. "I don't approve this violence on school property," said Andrea. "What do you have against violins?" I asked her. "No, violins, Arlo," Andrea shouted at me. "Violence!" "Oh, that's," I said. Mr. Tony got up, and the other male teachers came after Mr. Jack. As one time Mr. Granite jumped on Mr. Jack. Mr. Jack flipped him sideways. Mr. Granite was slept on his back. Mr. Looney tried to grab Mr. Jack's legs. Mr. Jack jumped and landed on Mr. Looney. "Yeah!" screamed Mr. Jack. "Hide your eyes, Emily," Andrea said. This kind of behavior is definitely not appropriate to children. Mr. Mickey and Mr. Roaring charged at Mr. Jack, but Mr. Jack grabbed both of them and at the same time and bumped their heads together. "Yaw!" screamed Mr. Jack. "Oof!" grunted Mrs. Roaring as he hit the ground with a thud. One by one, Mr. Jack kicked all their butts. It was like watching professional wrestling on TV, but without TV. Look at this. Here's teachers bumping her head and Mr. Jack doing that. And here's the teachers lying down on the ground. All the lady teachers were giggling and blushing and fussing their hair and fanning themselves and looking at their faces in little mirrors. All the male teachers were sprawled on the ground, moaning and growling. It was hilarious. I guess your fellows will think twice before messing with Mr. Jack again, said Mr. Jack. With that, he started combing his hair. "How do I look?" he said. "Does anybody want my toothbrush?" Thanks for watching. Mr. Jack is a Maniac. My readers go back number 10. I hope you enjoyed that. I will see you tomorrow in the chapter 4, right? Bye. Bye-bye.